Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw number 257, another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So as ever, let's crack on. First one is record-breaking, self-sustaining solar drone awesomeness. So this is from Luke Massimo Bell. I think this is in South Africa by the sound of his accent and also by the looks of the sky and the trees. However, this is a drone that flies just from the power that hits the solar panels, which is amazing. So as long as there is sun, this thing will fly. To the point of it can fly for 5 hours, 2 minutes, 21 seconds. And then he landed it anyway, just because it was getting a bit windy. So could actually last for longer. That's about 90 minutes longer than the previous electric multi-drone record or multi-rotor drone record. So that's very exciting. So imagine as long as it's a daytime flight, obviously taking off in say London and then going all the way to Spain on solar panel, which is great. So obviously it'd have to be a very large solar panel, but there you go. This is news from Imperial College, Stanford University and Internet Archive that the dead internet theory is alive and kicking and accelerating. So the dead internet theory is really that more and more of the internet is created and traversed by bots and AI now, and therefore less humans are on it, and therefore one day it will die because it's just not useful to humans anymore. So this research is kind of tracking that as well. So in the last 3 years, we've gone from 0 to 35% of all new websites being either AI assisted, and it's about 22% by the looks of that graph are fully AI generated. So if you put those two things together, 30-something% of websites are AI generated, and most of the internet, the majority, 51% or so, is bot generated. Then the internet is really majority bots at this point. There's a couple of other really interesting things, or lots of interesting things in this research. I do go and have a look at it, or at least look it up, and there's some articles about it. They're probably easier to read. However, there's semantic contraction, which is where AI doesn't really have a huge breadth and vocabulary and ideas, obviously. So the stuff is becoming less diverse, which is obviously the whole collapse of the internet, dead internet. And also, it's also overly positive as well. So 107% more positive than human writing, this AI writing, but still, in the research as well, 44% of humans still think it's overly a positive thing to society, AI. There you go, that's good to know. This is quantum dot 3D print filament. Who knew that was a thing? So there's a couple of things going on here. So ignore the sparkly stuff, by the way. If you do want to get sparkly stuff in your 3D prints, just 3D print with a bed with a hologram on it, and it will then transfer onto your 3D print. So ignore the sparkly petals. This is all about those funky colors that you're seeing. So quantum dots won't explain the fully thing, but if you put energy into a quantum dot, it will glow, it will fluoresce into different colors depending on what type of dot you've hit with what energy. So if you hit it, for instance, with a UV light, black light, whatever you want to call it, then it will fluoresce into these cool colors, but you only see it when you hit it with these lights. So this 3D print filament is kind of like opaque, kind of milky sort of color, but then when you hit it with light, it glows all sorts of excellent colors. So you can do a couple of great things with this. One is obviously you can then hide secret colors and whatnot in your prints, but what you're seeing on the right hand side, that sort of text and whatnot, is actually when you print this stuff, you can then kill the quantum dot structures with a laser. So you can print just a normal slab of this stuff, hit it with a laser, wherever the laser hits will kill them, and therefore you can write text or designs into them as well. So who knew? There's a lot of stuff going on in this one thing. So thank you to Daniel Betancourt for this great videos. Link to his Instagram down below if you want to go and look at these a little bit further. But this is from Protopasta, this filament. They do a lot of really cool filaments. Who knew that existed? This is TagTinker. If you have one of these things, I'm lucky enough to have one of these things, which is a Flipper Zero, otherwise known as kind of a hacking device for beginners, but also you can get up to some proper trouble with it. So this is a good example. This is totally illegal. I do not condone this, and that is not a real image. I didn't actually do this in a supermarket, but this is all about how do you change what's in those tags on supermarkets, and can you do it with an external device? And the answer is yes, you can. That's what TagTinker does. So it's in two parts. You need to compile your own app and then upload it to your Flipper Zero, and then there's a website element to it as well where you can prepare the image. So you can go and do this if you really want to, just like I did. Put my logo in there, it'll generate the image. Of no use unless you have a Flipper Zero, but this is actually quite useful if you have your own tags and you want to do some experimentation. So well done to I12BP8 who put this together. If you know what any of that meant and that's exciting, then go and do it yourself. But as I say, for research only, definitely not for mischief. Interestingly, somebody's found out that Google Chrome is doing a naughty. It's installing a very sneaky and large AI model onto your local device. Now, I had a search for it, couldn't quite find it, but all the settings are there to show that it is there. So what this is Google Chrome are downloading 4 gigabytes of a local AI model called Gemini Nano onto your device. Now, it uses it for smaller tasks, not the big tasks, which I'll come to that shortly, but this basically means that everybody who's using Google Chrome is eventually, hook or by crook, downloading 4 gigabytes of AI model data onto their local device. Now, if everybody, given Google Chrome has a large install base, if everybody did this just once, that's the equivalent of driving 13,000 cars for an entire year. So the environmental impact of just this one decision is incredible. However, it's also a little bit of a kicker because this local model doesn't do everything. That when you go to Google and you go to the little AI search, that searches the actual big AI in the sky. So this little model doesn't get used. It's only really used for extra things that the main model can't do. So this is all just a bit of a backup really at the moment. It's also got a lot of researchers and a lot of privacy people up in arms because a lot of this you should not be doing. It's overreach. It's also installing stuff. If you do try and delete it, by the way, next time you start Chrome up, it will then just install it back on your machine. So lots of shenanigans going on there. And also Anthropic have been caught doing this a couple of weeks ago as well. So this seems to be the new playbook for AI. This is a really interesting, it's been around for about 25 years. So 2002, I think this was actually put together, but this is the National Maritime Research Institute Deep Sea Basin in Japan. They have an open day every year. This is where I saw these videos, but they've been around for years, which is where I got these videos on their website going back a good couple of years. But what they have is 128 actuators around this pool. It's a very deep pool. It's like 35 meters deep. But they can use these actuators in really funky ways using lots of maths and goodness. And then you can create these patterns. Like this one is amazing. You can create a heart as a wave. So this is used for scale models of things like, oil refineries and all that sort of stuff out of sea, or exploration platforms at least. So there you go. Really interesting. If you didn't know that existed, now you do. It's really, really cool. Nothing else you can do about it, but maybe if you work in advertising, you want to do some really cool things, a music video, for instance, maybe feature this. And finally, we have sticky tape computing. This is actually a thing. It's also, by the way, it's like, this is what researchers are up to now. I guess all the main things have been discovered. They're now looking at sellotape. So this is Penn State, and they've tried to use sellotape memory. And what that basically means is, when you stick tape onto something and then you pull the tape back and then you try and stick it back again and then you pull it up again and you stick it back again, it doesn't quite stick the same each time. So those moments are essentially encoding the data and the memory of what you did to the action of the sellotape into the stickiness of the sellotape, because every time you put it back down, it doesn't stick quite as well. So therefore you can kind of go along and you can stick and unstick and stick and unstick, and then when you pull that back, you can then read using a force meter the different sticks and non-sticks, and therefore you can read the data back out of it. So it has this inherent memory in the actual tape itself. And this is AI generated, by the way. This is not real, and it's a bit like that, but not exactly like that. You get the idea. We've all used sellotape, right? However, the goal of this, if you're just wondering, is to create organic and mechanical computing. And this is obviously a mechanical memory device using sellotape. So if it wasn't just cassette tapes, it's now sellotapes. There you go. Interesting. Hopefully it was interesting. Hopefully it was useful. If it was, give it a subscribe, and I'll see you again next week.